Hello everyone, and welcome back to Rule the Roost podcast. It's been a good weekend for Tottenham Hotspur. Officially our best ever start to a Premier League season. Thank you very much, Antonio Conte, for playing the boring football required to get us out. Aren't I naughty? What a naughty start to the podcast, isn't it, Connor? How are you doing, mate?
Yeah, very well, mate. How are you?
Yeah, not bad. Do you like me being edgy there?
I've never known you to be any other way, mate.
How are you? Look, it is Tottenham's best ever start to Premier League season. Let's, whatever. We'll forget the culture war about Conte for now. Is it starting to click though?
I mean, yeah, I can't really believe that there's a culture war, and I couldn't really believe that there was part of our own fan base up until recently. I know you've had your qualms, to put it lightly. But yeah, I mean, I'm a bit baffled by it, to be honest. And I don't think people would care if we were playing boring football if we weren't doing so well and getting results, to be honest. I think if we were, playing the same football, but we were where, Liverpool are 9th or 10th, I don't think anyone would be asked, but I just think they're a little bit annoyed that we keep getting results, and we don't seem to be going away. So I'm all for it, mate.
Do you see, though, that... Because I would say sort of since Frankfurt, obviously Brighton, which I vaguely remember
well, yeah,
from the other day.
I know for a fact you don't remember all of it, 'cause you had your eyes closed. But...
and what was that last game? Everton. Like, the football's been getting better, right? Hasn't it?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it really has. I mean, as is often the way, the first half was pretty, not particularly memorable. But it often seems the way, which so much better second half. I was in the pub watching it, obviously.
Oh, you're right.
And with no other Spurs fans and a Newcastle fan, my mate Jack was saying that's a bit shit, wasn't it? I said we'll be a lot better in the second half because we always are for some reason. Whether that part of it is, possibly reserving energy, if it's just biding our time and trying to figure out the opposition, but we always seem to be better in the second half, and I was really confident at half time. And yeah, I thought we were brilliant in the second half, to be honest. I thought Everton did all right in the first half, did a pretty decent job on us in the first half, but I thought second half they were just, no better than they were last season, to be honest, and they have been a lot better this season. So it's no mean feat, really, doing it in the comfortable way we did, bar one or two little squeaky bum time counters in the first half. But yeah, I was really, really happy with it. I thought it was very, very comfortable, and as you said in the immediate reaction pod, it doesn't really feel like we've had those home games where, I was pretty much 100% confident we were going to win Saturday. And it doesn't really feel like we've had that for a while, like these home games that you can almost tick off in your mind before they're played. But I thought that's exactly how we played it, to be honest, and I thought we were really good.
Yeah, it is mad, isn't it? Because look, to give him his dues, very big of me. But the thing I would mostly say about Antonio Conte is that he's pretty much, in a very short space of time, restored Tottenham to the place that we were. We're not talking stylistically or anything like that, but in a belief sense of not far off sort of peak Pochettino, where we are going into some games thinking, I feel uncomfortable feeling this way as a Spurs fan, but you'd think we would be winning this game, and we are. Like you say, Everton, they're much better this year, right? They've been playing all right. Lampard,
best defence in the league, yeah, best defence in the league.
And I think they didn't register a single shot in the second half.
No, they didn't have a shot on target all game, but not even an attempt in the second half.
If you think about it as well, when I was watching it back, I believe it's for their first chance that the winger lad missed.
Demarai Gray, yeah.
Yeah, he didn't do much of it, but that only came from an error on our side as well. They didn't even create that. Højbjerg, I'm not just jumping on the opportunity to dig him out. He did fuck up in the build-up to that.
Yeah, he did. Bentancur did with the other one as well. But
yeah, and that's kind of it's always telling when you're reducing an opposition's chances to ones that are of your own kind of making. But I felt like we were really, really good in that game, and when we are starting to turn over teams like Everton, it's probably not the best yardstick because we generally do always turn over Everton, but still, it's always just a sign that you're a good side. We know where we're at the moment, right? This is Tottenham in the good cycle. This is Tottenham in the kind of the good place when we turn up to games like this, turning up to Brighton away and winning there, winning comfortably, being top of our Champions League group. A lot of this stuff, it does start to kind of melt away, right? A lot of the concerns and everything like that around the outside. I mean, there's a big red concern on the outside, but we'll talk about that later.
If we have to.
A lot of this other stuff, this kind of... this is the point I was trying to make. I've got this for later on in the running order, but it feels comfortable to talk about it now. I was making that point the other day about Emerson Royale and the sort of the hyperbole around him. People being like, he's just the worst. It couldn't get any worse than that. And my only point to it is this, and I'm not in love with the guy. Like, I'm not. I would rather see Doherty playing there. I'd rather even see Spence playing there than Emerson Royale. But he's still played most of the season, and we've had our best start to a Premier League season now, and we're top of our Champions League group. It feels like we don't have any massive problems. Things can get better, I get that, but I don't think there's any like glaring, real issues at the moment.
Well, and the thing is, I've been very, very pleasantly surprised at how quickly we've sort of turned around and turned around just a general feeling in the club and among the fan base from that sort of fortnight period where we lost at Sporting and then obviously lost the North London derby, but it somehow seems a long time ago, even if it was a couple of weeks ago. So I think we've just sort of carried on where we left off before that, really, in terms of momentum. We seem to have recovered that pretty quickly, which I think is a sign of a very decent team. That's the thing. I think, I know we haven't said their name yet, but I think we have on Arsenal is, and we saw it with them last season as well. I know they lost once to Man United this season, and they seem to have come back okay. But I think if they have a couple of results that don't go their way, I think you might see it not crumble, but I think they're going to find it a lot harder than we do to sort of get back up and running again and get that momentum back. That's what I'm banking on, and that's what I tell myself when I'm trying to go to sleep at night. Anyway, but yeah, I mean, I've been delighted with the turnaround since the North London derby, and we seem to have really used it as a positive catalyst, which has not always been the case with those defeats.
Let's talk about Harry Kane, because I mean, fucking hell, mate, it's 400 appearances from now, 258 goals, 61 assists. It's a guy that's gone from a literal meme to, arguably the club's greatest ever player. I dare say he will be considered that once he breaks Greaves' record. And if, say, we get our hands on some silverware, get a nice photo of him lifting something.
That's all I want, man. I just want a picture of Harry Kane with a trophy. Put it on my bedside table. I'm sure there won't be any issues with that. But that is generally what I want. And that's, I don't know. If it's a Champions League or Premier League, I mean, because we just have that forever to go back with anyone. Go back to anyone, sorry. Any opposition fans talking out their arses about him. Just go back with a picture of him holding a fucking trophy would make it a lot easier. But yeah, I thought he was phenomenal. I really did. For the whole 90 minutes as well. I mean, his fitness is just incredible, as is the rest of the team. But, his sort of energy levels, if you will, have been questioned a bit in the last couple of seasons in terms of, he looks like he's slowed down a bit. He looks a bit off the pace while he's still been banging in goals, obviously. But he was still sprinting, towards the end of the game, taking players on, creating chances from it. There was one bit where right up in their corner, he just slid it past two people and sprinted through them.
He sort of dinked over the back of his head as well, he did.
Yeah, exactly. He seems to have recovered that quick burst of pace, which nobody sort of associates Harry Kane with, but he really does have one. And he seems to have really recovered his fitness, and he's probably the fittest he's been for a good 3 or 4 years.
The funny thing is, right, because you're touching on it there, and it's stylistically, right, you're seeing him kind of do Hometown Glory. They put out the tweet the other week sort of asking for some of the best underrated goals. And And I was sort of deliberating between Kane's 2 against Chelsea when he sort of first arrived as a player, if you like. I think it's that New Year's Day fixture against Mourinho's Chelsea,
where he rolled John Terry and put it bottom corner.
Yeah, and then the second goal when he's I can't remember who else. I think maybe he did Terry again for the second one.
Where we just cut inside and hit a bottom corner from about 30 yards.
Yeah. And
that used to be his favourite goal. He used to do it all the time.
Well, that's it, cutting him from the sides, wasn't it? I mean, let's not forget
just
the
putting it bottom corner, yeah.
But a lot of that kind of that directness he had, like running at players, and also, he's got. It's funny because, like you say, people don't really associate him with this stuff, but he has got fairly quick feet, and you saw that again in this Everton game when he sort of mazed around a couple of players, and it just got away from him a bit, and Pickford got on the end of it, but. He seems really, really fucking up for it now. It's like he's suddenly got the bit between his teeth. You can tell he's starting to believe. And I mean, that's 9 goals in 10 games now, man. Like,
yeah, exactly. Which would be he'd definitely be top, wouldn't he, if it wasn't for that the big Viking freak at City, and he'd be favourite for the Golden Boot, which you haven't really, especially last season, it looked like that sort of thing might be a bit beyond him now, like properly going for Golden Boots and going for, he's on course for at least 30, this season. It did look, a couple of times in the last couple of years that was going to be behind him. But yeah, I think if it's just, he's had longer with Conte now, we've actually got a proper coaching setup, which hasn't always been the case the last 2 or 3 years. But yeah, I wasn't sure that he was going to be able to rediscover levels like he seems to be hitting this season. Even the start of this season when he was picking up goals, he wasn't always playing that well. But the last few games, especially the last couple of weeks, he seems to have really found a level again.
It does seem to be always the case of Harry Kane, right? And this is kind of part of his, I guess, his whole, I don't want to say shtick, but like the messaging that he's putting out into the world now. Now that he's kind of finding his voice, he seems to be getting a bit more confident to speak about issues and to speak about things. A lot of his kind of the Museum of London exhibition was about belief, finding belief, overcoming an adversity. Obviously, we know he's set up his charity now, or his foundation, I believe we should say. I'm sure there's some difference somewhere along the line between the two. That deals with kind of helping young people with their mental health and overcoming adversity and such. It's just always part of the Harry Kane theme, isn't it? Like you say there, I wouldn't have ever imagined him getting back to where he was, but yet he's here to prove us all wrong once again. And I mean, dare I say, when you really think about, I mean, let's call it his tenure, his time since coming to prominence in a Spurs shirt to now, I mean, really, the only player that's kind of come close to him in terms of a consistent return is Mo Salah, who is widely considered one of the greatest Premier League players of all time. And we've got Haaland kind of on the up at the moment. It's very early to say, but I mean, I think we really need to remind ourselves sometimes, myself included, that this is a lad that's come through our academy who is now there is no way we could sign a player as good as Harry Kane. There's just not a chance. And so I really like, it's just to that point of just kind of pressing on everybody, just really enjoy this while we have this, Yeah, and it is easy to forget, right? But like you're saying there, we're talking about a player who, were it not for this absolute freak, Erling Haaland, who's come into the Premier League and is terrifying literally everybody in a manner like I've never seen happen in my entire life watching football.
Apart from Joe Gomez and James Milner yesterday, to be fair.
Yeah, fair. So, and Harry Kane's second only to him in the league. I mean, we are in the presence of greatness, right? We are living through kind of a great era with the club's greatest ever player. There is a high chance, really high chance, this is it. Like we don't see this again in our lifetime. I
mean, when was the last time that especially one of our own, because it does make a big difference, even though it can sound a bit trite. It really does. When was the last time anyone got near him at our club?
Ledley, probably, isn't it? Like that, and his
career
but
was, even so, it's not for any fault of his own. It was a lot more patchy, wasn't it? to talk about this level of consistency for what, 7 seasons now, getting on for 8 seasons, and he's always been up there as, the amount of times, hasn't he only won a Player of the Year once or something, like the Fans Player of the Year, which just says, that it really does tell you how much he can be taken for granted. Definitely among Spurs fans, and he doesn't get anywhere near the kind of respect he deserves elsewhere, even among pundits and stuff. Opposition fans don't seem to like him at all. Which,
do you see all the bollocks about the pick for penalty? Like, people are,
mate, I know.
People are just denying what they are.
It's just absurd, isn't it?
They're denying reality. It's like a fucking 1984 2 + 2 = 5 shit. You've seen him get penalty, clattered by Pickford himself was holding his head in
tackled
his
him with his fucking. Well, he tackled him with his fucking head. We didn't even tackle him. He got nowhere near the ball and just took him out. Pickford knew it was a penalty straight away. I think it was Andros Townsend who literally plays for Everton. I know he's got Tottenham history and stuff, but he plays for Everton now. And he was saying straight after the game, I can't see how anyone's got any arguments about that. I think it's just, it's one of those that somehow he's got a reputation. And he can be clever when he's winning penalties.
But you shared that, honestly, batshit thing that fella shared where he's circling bits on images saying
his
this
hand,
is textbook Harry Kane.
To do with it.
Come on, man! Seriously, it's bizarre. But he's unbelievable, and I think now, I was trying to make this case the other week that I get why people are probably still somewhat hurt. I take it less and less now, but still. Nobody liked it when he wanted to leave and go to Manchester City in the way it happened. But we also have to look at where Spurs were at that point, right?
I was going to say, I think it was just the way it happened. I don't think many would begrudge him wanting to go at the time that he did. I think it was just, the Gary Neville interview, and just it all seemed quite underhand and not what we've come to expect from him. But as you say, given where Spurs were, given his age, how well he was playing in comparison to most of his teammates, our managerial situation, I don't think he'll leave now. I think he's with us for good. But I do understand why he was definitely looking around when he was. Some people haven't forgiven him. Some points, but I think I have to be honest. If he was, if it didn't look like he was giving his all every week, if it didn't look like he was committed, if it looked like he had, one eye on the exit, then no, I wouldn't have. But I think he's very much all in now, and I'll very much put that behind us. I say us. It sounds like I'm in a relationship with him there, but
I tell you, it'll be peak though is when after all our going on about golf course interviews and stuff, the second we see Saka out on a golf course with Gary Neville, ahead of his potential move to Man City, it's a real case of, did I say I hate golf course interviews with Gary Neville? I love them.
I do think Saka will end up there.
He's got City written all over him.
Yeah, I really, really think he has. I think he's incredibly pep. If Arsenal... if this trajectory doesn't continue, I do think he'll end up at City within a couple of years. Hopefully, anyway, because I'd like to be able to like him, but as it stands, I can't. So
it'd be absolutely delicious. Let's talk about Basuma. I thought he was absolutely fantastic. When he came on, and it's tough, isn't it? Because right now you can't break up Højbjerg and Bentancur. They're probably our 2 best players this year. Lump Kane in with that, I guess. Maybe let's say they're of our 3 best players. They've got a real kind of partnership that a lot of the team stability is built upon now. With Richarlison seemingly out for quite some time now, it seems like he may well be missing the World Cup. Surely it suits everybody now to stick with the 3 in midfield, right?
You'd think so, yeah. Just because it doesn't. I'm a little bit worried about Kulusevski because it just seems to be one of those. At the start it was he'll be back next week. Then it's he's picked up another knock in training. Now it's I don't know if he spoke about it after. I don't know if Conte put a timeline or anything on it after the game. I imagine he was asked about it, but I haven't seen. But it's a little bit concerning. He obviously wasn't even on the bench at the weekend. He was in the stands in a lovely Stone Island jacket. I'm a little bit worried about Kulusevski, and especially while he's out and Richarlison. There's no way we're going to play 3 up top, is there? Lucas Moura is not going to start. Premier League games. Hopefully, anyway. Yeah, I think it has to be. Conte was, really, really happy with him by the sounds of it. He was praising him after the game. I think he said he doesn't think he's ready for a 2. I think he said the best solution for him is to be with two in the middle. And even Højbjerg was speaking after it as well. He said he feels like Basuma coming on there sort of freed him and Bentancur up, as we saw with the goal. It was a perfect example, wasn't it? Really, those two bursting forward in the whatever it was, 84th, 85th minute. While they've got the security of Basuma there, but I thought he was just fantastic. I thought he was
amazing, wasn't he?
Yeah, and I think was it was only a couple of weeks ago, wasn't it? 2 or 3 weeks ago that Conte said it's still part of the tactical aspect that he needs to work on. But yeah, Conte sounded absolutely delighted with him, so I'd be very surprised if we don't see him on Wednesday at United.
Speaking of Richarlison, where are you at on him, mate? I'd be interested to know what your kind of thoughts on him are, because I am starting to see quite a few of the, not just kind of on the fence tweets about it, people actively being like, he's been a waste of money, he's shit, kind of stuff.
Well, that's fucking ridiculous. He's been here for 2 months. I don't know. I mean, I don't think we've seen him in his best position, which is in the middle, obviously. I don't know. I don't think he'd have played as much on the right if Kulusevski didn't get injured. I know he started a couple of games ahead of Kulusevski, which in hindsight looks a bit mad, considering how much we've missed Kulusevski. I think Richarlison looked better on the left, and a couple of his early appearances, even if they were on the bench, I thought he made more of an impact there. I think it was Wolves, he came on and looked really good. Forest. What else was it? I can't remember. There was another game anyway early on where he always came on, started on the left, and I thought he looked a lot better there. So yeah, I just don't think we've seen him in his best position, or his best 2 positions, to be honest. I think if you put Kane or Son out on the right as well, it wouldn't look quite right. I know Son's played there a bit, but he's nowhere near the same. So yeah, I'll definitely reserve judgment until we've seen him have a few games in one of his favoured positions, to be honest, because it doesn't really seem to work on the right, especially when he's got Emerson Royale behind him providing nothing. So, I don't know. Maybe, if in a few more games it might work with Doherty, but it doesn't look like we're going to see him anytime soon, does it?
No, it's hard to know. I mean, because it looked like from his reaction that he is going to be missing the World Cup. That's what he seems to. At least
I suppose he doesn't really. Yeah, he was in tears, wasn't he? I think he did an interview with a Brazilian journalist in the mix zone after, and he was in tears. But I don't know. He's a very emotional man. He's literally got the Brazil flag tattooed inside a heart on his chest, hasn't he? So I think this was what he was looking to. Well, one thing you can say is no matter how much he was looking forward to this World Cup, I don't think he's taken his foot off the gas at all. I think he's always given everything. It hasn't always worked out, and it hasn't worked out in terms of goal return yet. But yeah, I don't know. It didn't look great. I'd really hope for him that he's not out of the World Cup. But then if he is, that means Gabriel Jesus will go and he won't have a rest like it looks like it was going to happen, because he didn't seem to be getting a sniff when Richarlison was fit and firing. So yeah, it'd be an interesting one. But I do feel really sorry for him, because I mean, going into a World Cup as Brazil starting number 9, doesn't really get any better for him, does it?
No, I mean, that's kind of being R9, isn't it? Going into a World Cup in which I believe they're favourites or second favourites.
Yeah.
It's between them and Argentina anyway, isn't it? Generally speaking, France as well. It's good. I mean, I just think as well, right? He's clearly a good influence around the place. He's clearly got a good attitude. Yeah. Like, I don't think we need to be making these kind of worried kind of decisions after 2 months that somebody isn't kind of. I mean, we've seen enough quality. I personally think we've seen enough quality from him to suggest that as an individual, he's a very good player. This system definitely might just not be the best for him right now.
I think. I was most excited when he signed, because we had someone who could actually play in the middle, and it wouldn't have been the absolute end of the world if we rested Harry Kane for a game. But Conte doesn't look like he's ready to do that yet. So I think that's probably partly why we haven't seen the best of Richarlison. I think that his best has always come in the middle, and I do think we'll see that. After the World Cup, when the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup are all starting up, and Harry Kane obviously can't play in all those games, so I do think that's when we'll see Richarlison in the middle and probably see the best of him. I think being shoved out on the right there, because obviously you can't drop Kane and Son. it's not done him any favours.
Well, it's funny, isn't it? Because I mean, people forget as well. It's only literally probably a month ago, tops, that people were saying Son has to be out the team now and Richarlison has to start. That was the conversation at that point. So things can change, But it'd be interesting to see. Do you think we'll get more of an update today on his injury, or
depends when is Conte speaking today, or is it tomorrow? Ahead of Man United.
Yeah.
I think it's tomorrow. I'm not too sure, but I imagine I'll be asked about it then. But I don't know. I think Richarlison was just worried. He obviously doesn't know exactly what he's done, does he? I think he was just worried, as anyone will be now that gets injured. Which is why it's. I wouldn't expect anything less, but it's why I'm surprised at just how, on it Harry Kane's been and how, just relentless he's been with his running, and just everything, given that, the World Cup's in 4 weeks and his England captain it. Probably be his last World Cup, starting. He might still be around when he's 32, 33 in the England setup, but this, it's his last World Cup going in as captain, so you wouldn't be surprised to see, possibly players in that position take their foot off the gas a little bit and probably ease up and, maybe even asked to be, taken off when we're in comfortable positions, but that's just not Harry Kane at all, is it? And I've been, with that, without that, but with that in the back of his mind as well, I've been so impressed with him recently. I know we were talking about Richarlison, but I've just naturally gravitated towards Harry Kane again.
It's mad, isn't it? The world, like you're just saying then, I still just can't get used to this idea of the World Cup being in a couple of weeks or a few weeks' time.
There's just going to be no build up to it. Like usually, you have a good few weeks at least, or at least 3 weeks between any Premier League and the World Cup. So it gives people a chance to forget about the Premier League a bit and look to that. But with what we're going to have 8 days between the last Premier League game and World Cup opening match, it's just baffling, to be honest.
It's not going to be quite the same, is it, in pubs chucking Guinness and red wine about, is it? The sort of
definitely not. No, it's going to be very odd. It's going to be very odd. I saw a thing. Here you go. This is it's a really sort out the club versus country lot. I saw on Twitter someone saying, "Would you take Arsenal winning the league if England won the World Cup?"
No.
No?
No, absolutely not.
I don't think I would either.
Not a
which
chance.
Is fucking mental, isn't it?
Yeah, no, but it's just not a chance. No.
Imagine how good that would be as well. England winning the fucking actual World Cup, Harry Kane lifting that. But I don't know if I would either. It would probably very sad, but
it would be great seeing Kane with a World Cup, but also it wouldn't be good seeing them with that. It just
no, it wouldn't. I don't think I'd take it either.
I couldn't, because it would always be underpinned as well. It would be every time what has Kane won, when you post that picture, it would always be, that's the season Arsenal won the thing, forever in their shadow, all that type of bollocks, isn't it? God, they're just fucking the shadow over everything at the moment. I'm trying to get through as much of this podcast before I really start fucking going into that one. Romero in this game as well, looking, I would say, close to back to his best. Did you see absolutely. His quotes that were shared the other day? The quotes that he was given to the Argentinian press.
Don't think so.
He was just talking about when he just basically how much he loves Tottenham. Here you go. One of his quotes: "We arrived in England with my wife, who was 6 or 7 months pregnant, and we couldn't understand any English. But the fact is, this club is beautiful."
Oh, bless him.
A few other things just talking about the pace of the Premier League is crazy, much different to Italy. There are games that I could play without being 100% fit in Serie A. That doesn't happen here.
Well, as we've seen.
Yeah, and he's just talking about he's basically saying how when he first came to the club, he would only really stick to the South Americans. He was friends with Richarlison and Bentancur when he arrived. But now he just says he feels at home. He talks to everybody, and he's actually in charge of the music in the changing rooms before the games. So, and he loves Harry Kane as well. Says he's playing with the best striker in the world. So he fucking knows that, doesn't he?
I thought he was brilliant on Saturday, and he got a big kiss from Conte when he came off, which was is obviously a good sign in terms of how Conte feels like he played. It's just I'm a bit worried about him in the World Cup as well, because I think he's probably going to go all the way. At least semis, possibly final. So I'm just hoping he comes back in decent nick from that, to be honest, because he is, can be a bit of a dodgy one. in terms of injuries, but I absolutely adore the bloke. Yeah, I think he's been brilliant the last couple of weeks. I think everyone's taken a step up since the Arsenal game, to be honest, and I think he's one of them.
He's been unbelievable, hasn't he?
Yeah,
Daddy Davies, Gentle Ben started this game.
yeah,
It's much, in my opinion, it's sort of in terms of their level. I think there's much of a muchness between Longley. There's obviously differences, there's nuances in their play. I do like the control that Longley gives to us. I think he's got a sort of calmer presence. His passing's much better. But in games like this Everton game, when we were playing on the front foot, when we clearly were going at them, pressing a bit more, I do quite like Ben Davies's more sort of direct, dogged kind of pressuring, and we saw him kind of doing his thing that we don't really see from Longley, is getting up the pitch and supporting kind of play in the opposition half. Do you see us like rotating between the two as and when required? Because it did seem strange to me that he started this one, just as it seemed to be that Longley was our go-to guy now.
Yeah, I mean, I've been really, really pleasantly surprised with Longley, to be honest. I've known he was a very, very decent, very handy footballer, but yeah, just in terms of, as you said, how calm he's been. He doesn't look remotely phased about coming into a team like Tottenham in such a sort of high pressure. With Conte, someone like Conte as your boss, screaming calm from the sidelines. And that against Everton is very funny. If there's anything that's going to make you calm down, it's that, isn't it? But yeah, I've just been so pleasantly surprised with Longley, to be honest. I think he's been brilliant. I'd be very surprised if we didn't try and turn the loan into a permanent move. I think possibly why a lot of fans were underwhelmed is just because at the start of the window it was Bastoni for 80 million being touted, wasn't it? And then there was a couple of other targets that we didn't get, and we ended up with Longley on loan. So I think people's expectations were very low. But yeah, to be honest, if I was going to pick for a big game, I'd probably go with Longley. I thought he was possibly one of our best players against Arsenal as well. I know that's not there's not too many to choose from there, but in terms of him doing his job, I thought he was very solid. And I'd probably go with him as a starter in a big game. But saying that, Ben Davies has been pretty much faultless, hasn't he, since Conte came in? Wales fans have been telling us for 6-7 years that he's a left centre back, not a left back. And yeah, he's been absolutely fantastic. I wouldn't really bat an eyelid, to be honest, if I saw either one of them starting. Yeah, I can see why Conte absolutely loves Ben Davies, because he just epitomises it, doesn't he? His energy levels are just absolutely incredible. And yeah, he's just an advert for what Venturoni did for those players and their fitness levels as well, because he's absolutely relentless, as you say.
It is pretty mad, isn't it? Like, just the kind of the level that this team seems to be at. And we are talking about the World Cup just a minute ago, and we've all been sort of thrown around in our own discussions and everything about managing the entire season, right? You want are we playing sort of on the back foot slightly to conserve energy across this kind of mad month and all this type of stuff? And it's sort of, I don't know how deliberate or not it is, but it just seems that our players are really, really super fit. And I think we have we covered the most ground in the league again this year?
Yeah, we have. Yeah, we had before the Everton game at least, and I can't imagine that changed then.
So maybe we're not playing that on the back foot, really.
No, I think we look like slow starters because it's later in the game and in the second half that you see our fitness compared to the opposition's really take hold. I think that has to be quite a big part of why we're so much better in the second half, as opposed to any sort of anything Conte's been saying in terms of take it easy for the first 45. I can't imagine those words are ever coming out of his mouth.
No.
So I just think, I think that our performances in the second half and the last 20 minutes of a lot of games, I think that just shows how fit we are compared to most other teams in this league.
I mean, it just seems mad to me that the part of our team that seems to really get the most ire from fans is our defence, but it's potentially been like the strongest part of our game this year. Dyer is it? I'll be interested. What are your thoughts on Dyer, man? Because to me, I can remember one error, right, which is the game sort of in midweek. But other than that, I think he's been flawless for almost a majority of Conte's time at the club.
Yeah, honestly, since day one, since Conte came in, he's just been such a presence in the middle of that back three. I think I think was it in the week did he come off for Sanchez? And I think we really noticed that. So yeah, that would be a big worry if we do have to go without Eric Dyer for an extended period of time, which is not something a lot of people would have said before Conte came in the year or two before that. But yeah, he's just been such a consistent presence and pretty much faultless, as is Davis. As you say, apart from the hiccup in midweek. But I absolutely love him. I think he's been fantastic, and I think he's in the best form that he's been in for Tottenham, to be honest.
Yeah,
which and he's got a massively overdue call up to the England squad again. So,
I mean, he's got to be one of the first names on that in that England squad.
Yeah,
right?
I think he'll be starting now, which is remarkable considering the squad for those stupid Nations League games in the summer about a week after last season ended. He was nowhere to be seen in that squad, and now he came in and played the last couple of games, and I think he'll be starting without question. He has to, doesn't he? I mean, they're not exactly blessed, are they? I know Harry Maguire's still starting games, and it sounds like he's probably going to be starting the World Cup, which is quite baffling. But then again, he hasn't done much wrong in an England shirt apart from that last game. So who's who? But fuck England anyway. Talking about Tottenham, yeah, I love Eric Dyer.
Matt Doherty as well. Do you think Conte sticks with him? He had a good game, gave him a massive fucking hug. Kane's obviously been effusive in his praise for him.
Well, that's because they're mates, isn't it?
Well, they're like best mates, aren't they, really?
Yeah, they all have that twat from Barstool Sports, don't they? So.
Yeah, I don't. I'm not really on that whole thing. I hadn't realised he's like a proper wrong end. It's not a great look for the lads, is it, really?
It's not. No, I'm not going to make it.
I saw this whole pizza thing. I was like, oh, quality, this is good fun. And then everybody was like, no. This isn't
dreadful.
This isn't good. He's an awful man.
But no, just talk about the wholesome little film club instead of that. But yeah, no, Matt Doherty is, I think, was it Conte said that's a player I know after the game against Everton, gave him a big hug, and Doherty looked absolutely delighted with it, didn't he, when he was coming off and shaking everyone's hand on the bench. I thought he was fantastic, yeah, and I'd love to think that he's going to stick with him, but I just don't know.
It's going to be Emerson, right?
Emerson. Yeah, I don't know. To be honest, that red card against Arsenal has looked a bit of a blessing. To be honest, just if it means that Doherty's been able to come back and play himself into form again and play himself into, the forefront of Conte's thinking, then it will truly have been a blessing in disguise. Because I think we're just so much better with him there. Obviously going forward, but I don't think he's really put a foot wrong defensively under Conte either, which was something that people were using as a stick to beat him with when he first joined. Playing in a back four as well, obviously, which is not his best position. But yeah, I mean, he'd absolutely be my starting wing back on the right. I thought him and Perisic on Saturday were both pretty faultless, to be honest.
Right, mate. We've gone long enough in this podcast now. We've hinted at it. We've sort of briefly touched on them, but because I don't buy this whole bullshit. We should just focus on ourselves. We can't think about what Arsenal are doing. To me, in my mind,
what choice do we have?
It makes our achievements shit when they are top of the table and doing what they're doing at the moment. It doesn't make them shit. That's OTT, but it takes the gloss off it. It does take the gloss off it. Seeing what they're doing at the moment. You're very much in the camp that it's all the wheels going to fall off, right? But are you actually though, Connor? Are you just telling yourself this, mate?
No, I actually am. I really actually am. You've seen the levels Liverpool had to get to in the last 3 or 4 years to challenge City for the league. They only managed one. And, obviously that had a big asterisk because it was a COVID season. I just can't see anyone getting near City over 38 games. Over 10 games, sure. Arsenal did it last season, didn't they? Went on some mad winning run. And everyone thought, they had fourth sewned up. And then they lose 1 or 2 on the bounce and the momentum's just gone. I think they're too emotional. I don't think they have a big enough squad to deal with that in the Europa League, especially when they're, playing teams that, fucking the England 11 from Soccer Aid couldn't beat. They were heaping praise on themselves for beating Bodo Glimt on Thursday, because apparently it's a difficult place to go, which is fucking horseshit. It isn't. And you saw, to be honest, so they were fucking incredibly lucky against Leeds, right? And a sign of a good team winning when they're not playing well. Fucking nonsense. They're not getting away with that. 9 times out of 10, they don't get away with that result. And it came directly after an away trip in the Europa League on Thursdays, which I think is going to be their undoing, to be honest. I can't see them keeping pace with City while they're juggling that as well, especially when they're playing decent sides. They've been playing 4 or 5 starters, 4 or 5 that start in the Premier League and the Europa League. When they're playing, bigger teams that have dropped out of the Champions League or whoever in the knockouts, they're pretty much going to have to go full strength in that, and I think it's going to kill them because they just don't have the squad. They have a good first 11, a very good first 11, and obviously they're all on brilliant form at the moment, but they just don't have the squad for a sustained title challenge, especially when Man City are around.
I mean, I do feel it does play into our favour that they are one of the favourites for the Europa League, and as much as I still think it would be disgusting to see them win that. I'd hate to see them win that.
I'd hate that, yeah.
I like having that over them. And I do think that, as such, I do think Arteta's in a very difficult position whereby if he throws the Europa League to focus on the Premier League and then they don't win the Premier League, it's very easy at the end of the season to say, what the fuck were you doing, mate? Of course you weren't going to win the Premier League.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
So he is caught in that position where he does have to kind of juggle between the two. And I do agree, because one of the things I've heard from some Spurs fans that I really don't agree with on them is that their squad is great. Their squad isn't as good as ours even. I don't think ours is amazing,
They haven't got the depth. If Saka or Martinelli get injured, who comes in there in their front three? Could you name a player? It's that, they've got a young Brazilian lad called Marquinhos who's not. I mean, he's done all right in the Europa League. He scored a goal in the Europa League. He's not going to come in and start Premier League games. But he's going to have to if one of those two gets
Martinelli's stalling over a contract as well, isn't he, at the moment?
Apparently so, yeah.
As I think Saliba is too. So it's,
Saliba got shown up yesterday as well. I mean, the momentum's with him at the moment, and they're playing.
This is my concern, though, mate. For everything that everyone's saying, my big concern with them is momentum. It isn't every year a club gets this type of just feeling. Right, we've seen it before. We've kind of had that. We've come close. Obviously, not got it across the line. I know Leicester. We've seen it with Liverpool in the past, and Arsenal are just that club at the moment. They do have that.
It's because they're very, very. They've always been capable. They were last season of putting together a run of form like this. They did last season. They went on a mad winning run. And then they lost 3 on the bounce, I think. But it's just because this run of forms come at the start of the season, and it's the first 10 games. They've won 9 out of their first 10 games. It sounds a lot better than if they do it in the middle of the season. Which we did towards the end of last season in our run for 4th. I can't see the momentum carrying throughout an entire league campaign with the Europa League. I think the Europa League should tequila. It makes such a difference playing on a Thursday than it does. You're playing after everyone on Sundays more often than not. Going into that competition later on where they're going to have to play full strength teams, they're not going to get anywhere near City. They will be within 10 points of Man City come the end of the season.
It's funny,
and I don't think they'll be. I think we'll be a fair few points ahead of them as well, to be honest.
Don't you think the way the media talks about them, though, it does help
the
them?
MSM. Remember, I'm part of the MSM, Jack.
Yeah, you are. That's kind of why it's a probing question to you, I guess. Are you going to show your true colours and show you're a man of the people, Connor? Are you going to, whatever? I don't know. I can't know where that's going, but basically, look, it takes them winning a couple of games for the press to speak about them in glowing terms. It's always the Arsenal are back and all that type of shit. Whereas already we're seeing with us, we're having a fucking amazing year. We're actually having a fucking amazing season, and the focus is entirely on Tottenham are boring. Can Tottenham sustain this? Do you know what I mean? We know the narrative. We know what it is. It just feels like it always favours them. It feels like the sort of the talk of them being this giant that has reawoken and all this sort of stuff. It rattles opposition players a bit. It gets into their heads. It's like they worry more about playing Arsenal, this phoenix from the ashes type of thing, as opposed to Tottenham, who are always going to bottle it, who always have a wobble in them.
I think a part of it is that we haven't seen Arsenal in this position for I don't know, 8 or 9 years. They had a couple of times under Wenger in his late years. They were top at Christmas and stuff. Top at Christmas is fucking mid-October, by the way. They were top at Christmas. They ended up absolutely nowhere near. It's just something new, isn't it? I think that's what the press are latching onto. It's new. They're a young team playing, good football. I think that's pretty much what they've latched onto. To be honest, I think everyone expected City to be 7 or 8 points ahead at this, after a couple of games this season, and they're not. So I think it's something different, isn't it? It's a novelty, which is what they are, and it'll wear off. Their run of form this season just happens to have come in the first 10 games instead of halfway through the season, as I said a minute ago. But no, I'm not worried about it lasting, to be honest, mate. I think they know deep down as well, don't they? Like they're acting like competition winners at the moment, aren't they? Oh, look at us, top of the league. Who'd have thought? Like some massive underdogs. Like Arteta hasn't spent $500 million. They're not some plucky little. It's not Leicester, is it? They've spent £500 million putting together a very, very, very expensive squad of very good players. So it's saying that I still don't think they're good enough. I think they'll finish fourth. Probably. I think it'll be City, probably us and Chelsea in there. I'm not convinced on Man United, which I'm saying 48 hours before we play them, so that's not going to come back to bite anyone. But no, I'm just not convinced by them, to be honest. I don't think it will take much to burst their bubble.
Honestly, I couldn't tell you how desperate I am to see. Just their fans are out of control at the moment, man.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. They're acting like competition winners, getting carried away and stuff. Whereas but in their thinking, they feel like that's where they should be, but they're not acting like they're where they should be. They're acting like it's taken them by surprise as much as it has anyone else. And nobody obviously, I didn't expect them to be top of the table after 10 games, having won 9. Nobody did, but. It's just not going to last, and I'm not going to lose any sleep over it.
But the mad thing is,
that's honest.
We should be excited. We should be the fucking competition winners. We're the ones that have never seen our team win a Premier League. We're the ones that should be absolutely buzzing. But we're just so racked with anxiety anytime we get anywhere near to it. No,
no. What do you mean? Getting this what, the title?
Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Whenever Spurs are in a good place, I always get into this place where I'm like, fucking hell, every game is must win.
Well, they would be. But it's 10 games in, not 35. So that's why nobody's getting nervous. They're just enjoying it now, aren't they? They haven't really got anything to lose. I did a tweet yesterday saying, it'll be the bottling of the ages if they do it 4 points clear at the top after 10 games, which somehow got taken seriously by a couple of people. But yeah, I mean, no way would their asses not go if they were there with 10 games left instead of 10 games in. They just haven't got it in him. Arteta hasn't got it in him. No, I'm not really worried about Arsenal, mate.
It's funny, isn't it? The one thing I will say that gives me confidence about us, and not even in the extent that it gives me confidence that we can win the title, but that we can sustain what we're doing at the moment, is that, like you touched on there, and you see the conversation around Arsenal about how emotional it is, how much they're putting into every game. With us, it feels very clinical, and this example keeps being used, but we feel like his Chelsea team, the one that we lost the title to in 16-17.
Yeah, that's what we feel. I can see why opposition fans wouldn't like it or enjoy it, because it's annoying. That Chelsea team was very, very annoying. Obviously for us, for the reason that they're the reason we didn't win the league. So I think he owes us one there. But yeah, I think we're a very annoying team for everyone else, which is great, because it's been a while since we were really, really getting under people's skin. Because we've just
it's growing, isn't it, as well?
It definitely is growing. Yeah, the last 2 weeks, as I say, I think since the Arsenal defeat, it's not been quite the sort of overnight change that it was for Conte when people were talking about when he lost there with Chelsea. It's not been quite the sort of we've not seen we've seen a formation tweaks, and he's done it a couple of times in games. We've not seen one sort of big change that has led to some mad winning run. But I do get the feeling that it has been a bit of a catalyst. Just seeing us in the last couple of weeks. I think we're playing better than we were even when we were winning all those games before the derby. It just feels to me like something's clicked. And I think we look quite relentless at the moment in terms of how we're going about things and picking up points where we are.
Are we? I'm not sure either fan base are, to be fair, but are we? Are we emotionally there, mate? Are we emotionally, mentally strong enough to potentially weather a title race with Arsenal? Because that,
No.
I mean, this is. Can you imagine it, mate? Because this is the ultimate 50-50. This is abject misery or joy that I think surpasses even Amsterdam, mate. If we did that, imagine.
Of course, yeah.
Imagine an Aguero moment, last game of the season. We've been talking about Harry Kane wanting to see him lift a trophy and all this. If he seals the golden boot, he scores his 47th goal of the season. When he goes mad at the end of the year because he's realised that Haaland is 12 goals ahead of him, so he scores 15 goals against Leicester towards the end of the season. And one of those goals...
He did that before, didn't he, pretty much, anyway. I think it was the end of 16, 17, was it? He scored
6 goals, didn't he, in like 2 games?
I think he scored 7 in 3, yeah. To get a golden boot. I think 4 against Leicester, was it? And then 3 against Hull? I can't remember anyway, yeah.
He just goes into his let's go mode, doesn't he?
Exactly, yeah. Exactly.
But
that, yeah.
How, I mean, can you just... Do you think... Here's a question. Do you reckon you'd have a beer, Con, if we beat Arsenal to the title?
I think I might treat myself to a can of Lucky Saint or something. I think the only reason that's not going to happen is Man City, to be honest. I think it could well have happened this season if Man City weren't a thing. I think it'll probably be a 3-way title race, to be honest. I do think we'll be up there. Saying that, I think Arsenal will probably drop off before that. So I don't think that's going to have to. I don't think we're going to have to go through that. Thankfully, I never ever want to go through that. I know I've been quite boisterous about my feelings towards Arsenal and their potential for success this season, but no, I don't never want to go through a title race with them ever.
But it might be the case, mate. It might
because City are going to be there. They're not going to go anywhere, man. They'll be there. They'll be nearing. They'll be going for 100 points again. They won't get there. They'll be going for 90 odd, but they'll be gunning for it. I just can't see them falling away unless Haaland gets injured, which he has before. You know, had periods out for Dortmund.
I do wonder with them.
I don't see how they don't piss the league, man. I really don't.
I don't know, because I do wonder with them as well. I do wonder how, as much as we talk about him being this freak and everything, how sustainable Haaland's form has been. De Bruyne is not getting any younger. Their defence is a bit shaky.
I think the Walker injury is big as well.
I think City can be got at. That's the thing.
Liverpool showed yesterday. I mean, I thought City were absolute shit yesterday, to be honest. Bar a couple of attacks that they put together, some nice moves for the goal that was obviously chalked out, and there were a couple of times where they eventually got it to Haaland, who had a couple of free headers that didn't quite go in. Apart from that, I think they were pretty poor, which that can happen at I say at Anfield. I know I do think that atmosphere is a bit of a myth, but there are these big games where they can really get up for it, and City do tend to crumble there. They've only won there. Pep's only won there without a crowd, so that was obviously something to do with it. But I can't see them dropping enough points to make a title race particularly interesting, to be honest. They're just relentless, aren't they? They're gonna have the odd game like Liverpool. On another day they could have won that, having not played particularly well. But I really just can't see them not being there.
It's shite though, isn't it? Because great, they'll stop Arsenal winning the league potentially or whatever. But it's just going a bit. It's going a bit SPL, isn't it? Really, in the Premier League.
Yeah, but one good team instead of two.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I really don't think anyone's going to get anywhere near C. But I do tip us for second. Not to get carried away, but I do.
Do you think Liverpool are going to come back into it at all?
No. I think they've been so far off it this season, and I think yesterday was just one of those games, where it was just one on emotion and it was one on, being at Anfield, and I think everyone had written them off, before a ball was kicked yesterday, and I think it all just sort of came together. They had injuries and stuff that people are talking about. Haaland's going to score 3 or 4. I think just having watched Liverpool, in the Premier League, I know they smack Rangers, whatever. But no, I think yesterday was more of a one-off for Liverpool than a turning point, to be honest. I think they'll still be challenging for top four, but it doesn't really seem like it's going to happen for them this season.
It's mad, isn't it? Let's just sort of turn our attention briefly to Tottenham against Manchester United coming up. I mean, my entire life it's not been a happy hunting ground for us, Old Trafford. You could probably say that for most teams, really. It's one of those grounds, isn't it? Have you been that impressed by Ten Hag? I don't know why. I'm quietly confident about us actually coming away with 3 points.
I don't know. I was last season as well when we went there and ended up somehow losing. Was it 3-2 Ronaldo hat trick?
Yeah.
Just absurd, that, wasn't it? I still get annoyed about that game for some reason.
No, he did us at the Lane as well, didn't he?
Yeah, of course. He was bang out of form as well, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think both times.
Him. Yeah, and I think he'll probably start again. He's been starting. Rashford's been a bit out of favour, so I wouldn't be surprised if Ronaldo starts again. I don't know, man. I think we should go there and beat him. I've been fairly impressed in just how organised they've looked compared to recent years. They've looked pretty steady. I thought they were decent against Liverpool and Arsenal in terms of counter-attacking. I don't think they're going to do that to us, to be honest. Because, partly because it's not how we play, but I think we'll be okay there. I don't know. It's just going to Old Trafford, isn't it? It's apart from again, a game without fans, the 6-1 under Jose. It's usually pretty bad. I know we won there a couple of times, sort of 2012, 13. But I just don't associate it with good memories for Tottenham.
But I still just look at them. I look at United right now and I just think they're shite. I don't really think
they weren't great yesterday.
There's nobody in their team that scares me. That's what I would say. I don't feel intimidated by Manchester United at all. I'm remains to be seen how good Ten Hag is or not. But it's even signing players.
I'm not convinced.
What they dropped this year, about close to 200-300 mil on Anthony Casemiro and Martinez, right?
Yeah, their record window, yeah.
And do you take any of them at Spurs? Casemiro?
I'd probably take Anthony as well, not for 85 million. I'd take him as a squad option. I'm not, I'm saying all this, but he's obviously going to fucking score on Wednesday.
Yeah.
But, and his finishing's looked alright. He's got a couple of goals, hasn't he? He's got a really good goal at City when they got absolutely battered. I don't know. I think he's been alright. Anthony. I'd take Casemiro in our squad, obviously. You would, wouldn't you?
Yeah, of course.
He's only, he started, I know he started yesterday for them, but he hasn't been starting much at all.
I guess my point is, because it makes me sound a bit silly, but it's like, you don't look at really any of those and think, they definitely they easily walk into our team, No,
not at all. No, the only one I'd quite like is Eriksen. I think he's been brilliant for them, and they missed him a lot yesterday against Newcastle. I think they probably would have won that with Eriksen in that team. I think it's just his creativity that even someone like Bruno Fernandes can't replicate at all. He's been pretty dog shit this season, Bruno. Their fans seem to have turned on him quite a lot as well. I don't know.
I saw Alex Shaw on ESPN having a big dig at him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I sincerely hope Eriksen's not ready to play. I know he was only ill yesterday, I think Ten Hag said, so he might be back. I really hope he doesn't start. If Eriksen's not starting, then I'm a lot more confident, to be honest.
I still think you can get at Eriksen now, though.
You can, but he can definitely get at you as well. He just can pick passes that nobody else in their team can. He was instrumental in the game against where they beat Arsenal as well. That they don't win that game without Eriksen. So a little bit worried about him. Not just because of the narrative, just because he's been brilliant this season. If he's not playing, then I'm pretty confident. If he is, I don't know. I
hate to say it, but I think looking at Manchester United, they are an example to me of, when you kind of, and I do like doing it. I do enjoy doing it. Sort of taking away from Manchester City's success and Pep Guardiola's ability. But when you look at kind of the amount of money that Manchester United continue to spend, and they're just, I don't know, chronic state of being average, really. I can't help but look at City and think, you know what, yeah, I know they spend a lot of money. I know they are breaking football, but they are still very smart the way they're going about.
Well, City haven't spent much more, if at all, than United since Pep joined. They've just done it a lot better, you know?
I'm sure their wage bill is disgraceful as well.
It probably is, but so is Man United's. Man United's ridiculous.
Yeah,
Ronaldo was on 500k last season. They just don't, you know, they're not owned by an oil state, so they don't quite get the same. Oh, well, what are you going to do about them? Because they just haven't spent well, whereas Man City have.
I mean, they've got the thing about United is that they've got that same thing as Madrid, where, like you say, I get it, they're not owned by oil states, but they're still establishment clubs, right? Madrid and
of course.
United, and they get money from all over the fucking place because of the power of their brand, and people want to be associated with them. So they're financially doped in a more complex way than the acute way in which somebody like City or PSG are, right?
Yeah, well, to be fair, the Glazers have been using Man United's money for this, whereas, you know, City's owners have obviously put a lot in themselves. So that is the difference. But yeah, their spending the last few years has just been absolutely obscene. And yeah, you're right. I really wouldn't take many of their players at Tottenham. I'd still take Rashford, to be honest. I still like Rashford.
I like him. But is that because you like him though? That's what I sort of asked myself.
No, I think he's a good player. And I think he was pretty much back at it for a good few weeks this season before I think he got injured, and then he's been out of the team again.
I've always had a soft spot for Martial as well, to be fair.
Yeah, I like Martial. Again, he's got a couple this season as well. I know he scored a hat-trick against us last season, but I'd rather Ronaldo played Wednesday than Rashford or Martial, to be honest. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's a really tough one to call. We went there last season. We were a lot better than them. You know, we had momentum, and that happened. You know, I know. Yeah, Ronaldo's probably not going to score another hat-trick, is he? But I don't know. You can never rule it out. He seems to score against us every time he fucking plays. Even, you know, that time he battered Real Madrid, he still got the goal. He used to score against us in his first stint. He's scored against us every time he's played us since he's been back. I don't know. I think it's all on how clinical we are, really. You know, there's been games where we've had chances like at Arsenal where we broke free a few times in that first half and the final ball wasn't there. We have to take those on Wednesday, and I wouldn't be surprised to see us get 2 or 3 there. It's just, yeah.
Do you want to see him? Because I mean, I want to see us play with the 3 in midfield at all times, but in this case in particular, because I feel like we've got a match, because they're going to probably have. If we look at their last game, they had Fred, Casemiro, and Fernandes as their midfield.
Fernandes is not really he seems to be spending more time trying to join the attack than being part of that midfield. So I do think if we do start those 3 lads in there, I think that would definitely give us a bit of an advantage in there, and I think Basuma would definitely help with Eriksen as well.
Eriksen's sort of 50-50, it seems to be.
Right, okay. Well, I don't think we have a choice now, given the Richarlison injury. Kulusevski's obviously not going to be fit to start, so I'll be very, very surprised if we didn't go with that 3 in midfield, which I really like, to be honest, and I will be more confident if we do that, because I just think we look a lot more composed. I think it seems to benefit Kane and Son, those 2 playing in tandem up there together. So yeah, to be honest, I don't know. I would be pretty confident if we go there with the team that we expect. But who knows, man? Cristiano Ronaldo.
It is pretty mad, isn't it? So, I mean, ahead of the World Cup, look, we got United. It's in the Premier League anyway. We got United away, Newcastle home, Bournemouth away, Liverpool at home, Leeds at home, Brentford away.
Leeds at home the last game, isn't it?
Yeah, Leeds, yeah, it is, yeah.
Yeah, Brentford away is Boxing Day, I think.
Yeah, it is,
I just really, really want to beat Liverpool. I really want to beat Liverpool. I know we properly rattled them last season because they only got 2 points against us, and especially the one at Anfield. But we just owe them, man. We haven't beaten them for 5 years. That 4-1 at Wembley. I can't believe we haven't beaten them for that long. Given they've had 2-3 seasons since then where they've been amazing, but they've also had a couple of really off seasons where we just still never ever seem to beat them. I'd really, really, really love to beat them at home. That'll be a huge game. That obviously Wednesday is as well, but I just really want to beat Liverpool.